Pickleball, a sport that is sweeping the nation. If you haven't heard of it yet, chances are you've seen it, or maybe you even played yourself. What started as a backyard game in 1965 is now trending into one of the fastest growing sports in the United States. In the wake of the 2020 pandemic, pickleball found its way into the spotlight. With lockdowns limiting indoor activities and strict social distancing restrictions, Americans sought the outdoors in search of fun and found pickleball, a sport quick and easy to pick up, endlessly engaging, and respectful of the COVID-19 regulations. Pickleball still remains the fastest growing sport in America over the past 3 years, with participation growing over 200%. Based on the Association of Pickleball Professionals report from 2023, there are an estimated 48.3 million pickleball players in the United States, with nearly 19% of the total adult population playing the sport at least once in the past 12 months. The updated study also revealed that the average age of players is 34, considerably younger than the previous years, with 72% of people playing at least once a month are aged 18 to 44. But what actually makes pickleball so appealing? Despite it being easy on the body and accessible for all ages, it's more than just a sport for most.
I think it's just really like the fact of having the sense of community.
I think it's just a way for us to spend time together as friends before we have to all leave each other to go to separate colleges.
The game's just fun. It's just the whole strategy of it. It's just something there's no game like it.
The competition and staying in shape and having fun.
Pickleball has found a special place in the hearts of Long Islanders. Over the past few years, new courts have been popping up in public parks and indoor facilities have opened, transforming the way people play and connect. Pickle and Par, Long Island's first ever indoor pickleball facility, opened up in Melville right before the COVID-19 pandemic, which could have hindered the business's growth. However, the manager says that COVID actually helped the business flourish.
The Melville location opening in 2019, in our first year we had to close down with the pandemic. What's interesting about the pandemic is it actually aided the growth of the game of pickleball. It was actually in the news how people were picking up pickleball because it was something where you could socially distance and play a game and engage with others.
The Melville location has done so well that it expanded to another location right in Smithtown in 2022. Home to 13 courts between the two facilities, the goal of Pickle and Par is to foster two very social sports, pickleball and golf.
So I think something really special about Pickle and Par is, not only were we the first facility on Long Island and really started to grow the community of pickleball here on the island, but we really take a lot of pride in the staff that we have here. It feels like nowhere else on Long Island.
Andrew was introduced to pickleball in 2005 as a senior in high school and fell in love with the sport ever since. After leaving his old job in insurance to take on the role as general manager, he just knew it was the right choice, especially getting to experience the community at the facility.
What we would really love to see people get out of this facility is a sense of belonging. We want them to feel like this is a club to them, to feel at home. It's just a place where we really want people to feel like we know their name.
Between the two facilities, Pickle and Par hosts on average 140 to 230 people every day. Business usually slows down during the spring and summer seasons, but the members at Pickle and Par are dedicated.
There's something really comforting knowing that you have your game locked in, and something like weather, like you can't predict the weather, right? And if it ends up being rainy or a little windy, or you show up to let's say outdoor courts and you can't get your games in because they're overpopulated, that can always be an issue. So knowing you have your game set and your court reserved is ideal.
There are also plans of Pickle and Par to branch out to a third location on the island, including New Hyde Park, but Andrew is not worried about the growing competition.
I believe in the game itself of pickleball, but I also believe in Pickle and Par. We have such great members that support the club on a daily basis, and I feel like that's going to continue to grow. If I can continue this passion for what I love to do, it's going to be pretty easy, and I don't see this fire really burning out anytime soon.
Long Island's newest and first facility on the east end of the island just touched down in Riverhead. Box Pickleball made its first appearance to the public a week after Thanksgiving and invited players from all skill levels and ages to test out their new courts. First-time business owner Peter Batchmore found out about the sport nearly 5 years ago and knew then that it would be a good investment.
Me personally owning something where I know that I can control what I give back to the community was so important. And the investors that I got involved and the employees that thankfully I have the same vision. What you see here today, that's important to me. It's a transition for me into the next part of my life. This is my stamp on all of this.
Partnering with Peter as the director of pickleball is Scott Green, who is also a pickleball enthusiast himself.
He was the absolute right guy to buy into this vision, what we wanted to do. And he said it to me right off the bat that we want this to be a community thing as well. And that was important to me, that this wasn't just an investment. It's not just about the money. It's really about bringing people together.
I had the chance to speak with Scott Green and check out the facility while it was still under construction.
Welcome to Box Pickleball. So when you come into Box Pickleball, this will be the check-in counter. There'll be a big monitor right there. It'll say, go to court 3, court 4, whatever the case may be. And this area here, next to the wall, there'll be big monitors, huge screen TVs. There'll be a constant stream electronically of our sponsors. This will be a lounge area that you'll be sitting here waiting for your friends to show up. These are your first 4 courts, 1, 2, 3, 4, between the pillars. The courts will be red and black. This is the initial vinyl they put down. So when all of the work is done, the courts will be put in. That's courts 5, 6, 7, and 8. This is the bar and the restaurant. This is not my vision. It's people like Peter Batchmore, the owner, head of the conglomerate. It's their vision. I mean, I never would have thought of this. I mean, come on.
Listen, in all honesty, I've never run a pickleball facility. Can I? Of course. All right, but it's something that's new. I don't want to see another sport get pushed out because of pickleball. As far as the tennis court, putting some lines down, you can still play tennis. I'm not for ripping out tennis courts and putting in pickleball courts. Both sports can coexist.
Though the courts are now finished, there are still big plans for his future, and Peter and Scott remain hopeful for what the community will get out of it. Scott Green is also the owner and founder of Around the Post Pickleball, a business designed to educate and train players on the sport of pickleball. They hold clinics for players on any skill level and host tournaments across the island that draws in players from all over.
Firms like mine and others like Around the Post, there has to be serious people in a sport that are going to perhaps monitor what's going on. I have to be on the cutting edge of pickleball. I have to know about DUPA rating and VAR rating and this and that and whatever and how to run a tournament. I am able to provide more for players than just coming down and playing. There needs to be people who are in the business who are, in line with the constant progression of not just the people who are playing, but the businesses that are getting involved.
More and more people are reaching for paddles today, regardless of age, which can be attributed to its surge in popularity.
Part of the reason for the explosion is not just the availability now and the easy tempo of the game, is young people are playing. All right, young people are finding it. If you came down after school, there'd be kids playing. That, I think, has fueled, and not just, I'm not talking about teenage kids, but now younger, the 30, the 50 range. I mean, when I first was playing, it was older people. It was 55 plus, and now it's across the board from 18 up, everybody's playing. There's not enough courts. There is not enough courts, and I don't know if there ever will be.
After creating Around the Post in 2021 and seeing the positive turnout around the sport in just a few years, he can confidently say that he has accomplished his goals.
I don't think there's anything more. I don't have a number that we have to give lessons to 5,000 people, or I have to run a tournament with 500 people. Those are short-term goals. I reached my goal.
What was your goal?
To bring pickleball professionally taught and tournaments professionally run, to show that this was a sustainable sport. And I think out here I helped do that. There's no article you're going to be able to find that says pickleball is softening as far as the growth. And even if no one tomorrow picked up a paddle, there's enough players to sustain this market for quite a long time.
The continuous increase in public courts, indoor facilities, and participants project an even bigger future for pickleball on the island. Part of that future may even entail being a varsity sport. In Maryland, the Montgomery County Public School District already offers pickleball as a varsity sport starting this past fall.
We're the first district in the country to do pickleball as a varsity sport. And we still are. When we piloted at 11 schools last year, we were the first, and we were the first ones this year still to expand. But what we saw was just how much it exploded. We had schools between 50 and 70 students coming out for the team. It was just crazy to see how many people were interested. We just said, who wants to be part of this pilot? And we had 11 schools step up and want to be part of that initiative. And when we saw it, we thought, you know what, this has potential here.
However, getting there required a 4 to 6 month process of figuring out all the logistics.
The biggest piece that we look at is interest. I mean, we're fielding a program that we want students to be proud of, that we ultimately want them to be engaged with. Then we look at a number of things. Once you get past the interest, funding is a big part of that, right? And there's a budget perspective of how much money is available. But then, facilities. Do we have the facilities to support that activity? Do we have coaches? Do we have staff members that are going to want to coach that sport? So being a district our size, when you have 25 high schools and 40 middle schools, right? Do you have the bodies to support that in terms of coaches, right? Do you have the officials that can officiate? Do we have buses, equity, and Title IX? And then ultimately, is it a sport that over time we believe is going to have the infrastructure to be successful?
But with the help of their partnerships like the DC Pickleball team and Yola, the largest pickleball equipment company, it brought the school's program to fruition. And luckily, the issues they ran into were having too many students coming to try out.
So a couple of the challenges for us is, the interest at some of the schools. So we had up to 70 students coming out, and we started with lineups of 5 doubles pairs or 10 to be competing in a match. So you double that thinking, oh, your team's going to be about 20. Well, you have 50 to 70 students that want to come out. How do you make that team selection? How do you get that number down? How do you not turn students away?
The Montgomery District's first official pickleball season has already wrapped up for the fall, and it's been emotional for Dr. Sullivan. Despite any challenges they faced, getting the chance to create history and opportunities for the students has been rewarding.
It means a lot. I think it's been fun to listen to some of them. Had tears in my eyes listening to the students give the interviews and talk through, answering the questions about how much it's meant to them. The things that maybe a contract or a proposal or us doing things on paper or the adults in a room kind of crafting out what something looks like, you don't always realize the impact of that. You want that. And to see it come to fruition is extremely emotional and powerful. And because ultimately that's what we want to do, is create a program that our students have joy and pride in, and experience all the learning that athletics have, whether it's winning or also what I'd argue is the most, not winning, playing your best possible match and still losing by 1. Those are all the things that exist in sports that are tough life lessons, right?
In order for Long Island to follow in the footsteps of Montgomery County and make pickleball a varsity-level sport, it must meet certain criteria across the state of New York. Robert Zayas, the executive director of the New York Public High School Athletic Association, explains the steps of what it takes to reach varsity status.
We have a defined championship philosophy, and we use this championship philosophy that's been supported by our membership to determine when a sport becomes an emerging sport and then when a sport achieves what we refer to as championship status. So an emerging sport is when a sport has 4 of our 11 geographic sections supporting it, and within those 4 sections, there's at least 4 schools participating. When that sport receives emerging sport status with 4 sections and 4 schools in each one of those 4 sections participating, then we can create a committee, and then we start organizing regional events. Once we have 6 sections, 6 of our geographic sections with at least 4 schools participating, then that's what would move it from emerging sport status to championship status.
So if Maryland can do it, what's stopping New York, or more specifically Long Island, from getting there?
The school's finances is one thing, and I think also you wouldn't want it to take a place of another sport.
It's just the feasibility of yet another sport. Like I mentioned, we already included 3 new sports in the past 3 or 4 years, where we're fitting it, and are we going to take athletes away from other sports to play pickleball?
A lot of it, I think, has to do with the logistics of, are there tennis courts marked for pickleball or not? Do they have pickleball lines maybe in their gymnasium?
However, there are many ways to find solutions.
Our girls' tennis is in the fall. Maybe we'll play boys' pickleball in the fall with the girls, and then vice versa in the spring. So we can accommodate both of those.
When you look at school districts that are resurfacing their tennis courts, I'm hopeful that we start to see more schools resurface their tennis courts and then not just put down tennis lines, but maybe put down pickleball lines as well.
So if you can get a group of schools to start playing on the middle school level, and then you all grow the program, then go to JV, then go to varsity, I think you'd have more success that way.
Once we get them to championship status, then I think some of the challenges that we would have to see as a state high school athletic association is maintaining that threshold of 6 sections with 4 participating schools, but then also making sure that we understand if we're going to have a championship sport, what are the logistics that go into championship sports and hosting a state championship? For example, what venue are we going to use for the state championships? Is it going to be what time of the year are we going to host a pickleball state championship? Because we really can't host it in the fall because that's when our girls tennis championships are. We can't host it in the spring because that's when our boys tennis championships are. So the most ideal time to have a pickleball championship would be in the winter months. Well, where are we going to host a pickleball championship, much less where a school is going to practice during the winter for pickleball? And I think somebody would say, well, the easiest place for them to practice would be in the gym. But the challenge behind that is you have basketball season going on in the gym during the winter, and then you also have wrestling going on. We have boys wrestling, and we just started girls wrestling. So now gym space becomes somewhat limited. And the other thing in the winter is competitive cheerleading, which oftentimes uses the gym. So now you're talking about adding another sport for gym space during the winter season.
Suffolk County has plans to form a committee to get the ball rolling on pickleball. As of right now, Nassau has no plans of forming one.
We're going to get the pros and cons, as we discussed already. The big problem is where do we play it? We also need to know how many teams would be interested in participating in it. And then we would have to set up the rules, regulations, and so on.
Now, the question is, where does pickleball stand on the road to varsity level?
I really don't know because no one has brought it to me that they're saying they're interested.
Well, it's nowhere right now.
To my understanding, there's no section that is supporting pickleball right now. And I'm not even sure how many schools would be supporting it as an interscholastic sport. But it really starts at the grassroots level, at the school level, to try to drum up interest and really start discussing it at a local level first.
Despite schools not recognizing it as a varsity sport up to this point, that doesn't mean it can't get there in the future. Some schools on Long Island are in favor of making pickleball a varsity sport. Jack Boland and Robert Cole, both seniors at Massapequa High School, started playing pickleball over the summer and really took a liking to it. So much so that they are pushing for it to become a club.
We were playing pickleball one day, we were playing doubles against our friends, and I think one of us made a joke like, hey, we should start a pickleball club. And then in that moment we just looked at each other and we realized that we should start a pickleball club. So we emailed Mr. Rath, the head of physical education, and we emailed the principal, and we made an Instagram page that has over 100 followers now. We started putting out some Google Forms, gauging interest, and a lot of people are interested in it. I think it was almost 100 people said they'd be very interested in doing the club in the spring.
And Brian Rath, the physical education chairperson at Massapequa, is on board with the idea.
When the interest is there and kids are excited about it, you want to try and help them out. Honestly, there's nothing like really being a part of a team. You know, those are special times and special relationships and friendships that can develop from being a part of a team. You know, those experiences are honestly what make high school athletics so special. Robert and Jack are great, and you know, they've put in a lot of work already to try and make it happen. So I'm all for it. I think it would be a wonderful addition to our kind of athletics and intramural and club program that we have here at Massapequa.
He believes that Massapequa could successfully start and sustain a pickleball club and team because of the amount of students at the school.
At some of the smaller schools, I know that it's a little bit more difficult in generating that interest because they just don't have the number of kids that we necessarily have. You know, for us, I think we would be able to start a pickleball club and or team and not really have an effect on our other teams. Whereas in some other districts, when they add new teams, sometimes it has an adverse effect on some of the other sports. So I think certain districts might be nervous about that transpiring.
Some schools like Shoreham Wading River don't see it becoming a club anytime soon due to its smaller size.
I don't know. Honestly, probably not, because I don't think we have the space, or it's kind of a small school. I think it's already positive that's introduced during physical education classes, so that's an opportunity for an outlet. But then also I almost feel like it's something that people that are really interested in, they kind of go and do like there's tournaments all over the place that you could just go and play.
Christian Boss, a senior at Shore and Wading River High School, has taken his love for the sport way beyond just gym class and is now a certified pickleball instructor.
I became certified like a year and a half ago, but I taught before that. Taught in Southampton for a little bit. I taught for the town of Riverhead. It's also nice because you get to teach someone like a sport that they could play like for a long time, you know?
Many people believe pickleball is a sport here to stay and even go beyond that varsity level.
Like, it's just going to keep going. There's going to be more people. I mean, I've already seen it. There are people who have literally said to me, like, I have no interest in playing pickleball. It's just like tennis. Like, I hate it. I hated tennis all of my life. And I was like, I'm never playing pickleball. Look at me now. Like 2 years later, I can't go a day without thinking about it.
There is a clear trend up with pickleball. And with the level of success that students experience early with that sport, it's not just something that they're going to enjoy while they're with us in high school. It is something that they can play for the rest of their lives.
I feel like it's growing, and it will continue to grow, all right, and become a force just like tennis is.
It's just really growing to the point where I can't help but see it become an Olympic sport. It would be a shame if it didn't.
Where do I see pickleball going? It is going to be an Olympic sport, but think about the youth, and that's what's going to be the next hot button group that this is going to touch and explode on.
Yeah, I think it's only going to continue to grow. You see indoor places that have courts, outdoor tennis courts that have been converted to pickleball courts.
It's a lifetime sport. And you know, anytime you have a lifetime sport, it doesn't die really. It just keeps going and going and even growing. And so that's how I see this. I think it's going to be around and people are going to play it forever. And that's why I think it will be a school sport at some point.
It's very, very popular in a fairly short period of time that it became more of in the public eye. So I don't see it stopping. I don't see any negatives to it.
Pickleball, it's a great sport. If you can play it, if you have access to a court or a paddle or a ball, you should play it. And teach your kids how to play it, teach your parents how to play it, teach your grandparents how to play it. You know, it's a great sport.
Teach your whole bloodline.
Yeah, teach your bloodline. If you can get involved, you should get involved. So that's it.
As excitement surrounding the sport continues to grow on Long Island, outdoor and indoor courts will continue to be packed, and the likelihood of it becoming a varsity high school sport will increase. This can create new opportunities for more athletic competition, leisurely activity, and business opportunities throughout the island.